Well, China is holding what is known as its two sessions meetings, which started on Wednesday and are typically run for 1 to 2 weeks. It's China's, of course, biggest annual meetings of the country's political advisory body and the legislature. The sessions signal China's priorities, including its ambitious growth targets and President Xi Jinping's roadmap for the country. The first is that of the advisory body, the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, CPPCC, which began on Wednesday. The second is the National People's Congress, the NPC, which convened on Thursday. Looming over the event is the dismissal of high-level military officials as part of President Xi's long-running anti-corruption campaign. China is the world's second largest economy. Well, for more on the two sessions meeting, the journalist Enoch Sikolia joins me from China's capital, Beijing. Thank you so much, Mr. Sikolia.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so tell us more about China's annual two sessions meeting and how much it is. How was the key nature of this to national growth?
Well, when we're talking about the China's two sessions, the reason it's called two sessions because it has two sessions of the National People's Congress, and then there is the CPPCC. Now, this brings together top stakeholders of the Chinese government to deliberate about the forthcoming year. Remember, this is the first year of the 15th five-year plan of China. So it's quite an important event an important political event as far as China is concerned, as far as the governance structure of China is concerned. So we're looking at sessions that began much earlier, and we've had quite a number of sessions. We've had quite a number of engagements that have been going on between members of the National People's Congress and members of the CPPCC. Some things have come out quite clearly, and from an African perspective, the cooperation between China and the outside world has come out quite clearly in all these engagements. Yesterday, for example, there was an NPC press conference whereby the key highlights were about trade, not just domestic trade, but also international trade, where key leaders, including the Minister of Commerce, including the Minister of Finance, and including the National Head of Development, talked about just how they are looking in terms of international trade. And I remember quite a number of African countries have had already not just bilateral, but we're talking about trade engagements with China. And this year, the Minister for Commerce actually said they will be having a lot of promotions for or promotional events that could bring on board people from different countries, foreigners, foreign companies, to come and just market their products in China. So it has been quite an engaging event here in China, and many things have come. And actually what I can say is that many avenues have been brought forth where the African continent can tap into the Chinese vast market, as well as also engage with experts from China. We've heard that China is looking at how it can export its services. We're talking about its technology, for example, the AI. They are quite planning to invest heavily in the emerging technologies. And at this particular time is a time when I looked at the presentations that were made by the ministers. They're looking at how they can partner also with the outside world, remember Africa included, to just tap into these emerging technologies.
All right, so we have seen China build electric bridges, manufacture electric and flying cars spring up with telecoms innovations. Now, do you think it's all about a desperate drive to be the world's largest economy, and the reason why there may not always be handshakes between China and the US?
Well, from what I looked at and from the press conferences that were there, it goes back to the Chinese foreign policy, which talks about sharing and in terms of equal growth. They're looking at how they can grow with others. In the press conference, actually, one of the key highlight was that they said that while others look at, for example, their market as a way of as a weapon when we talk about geopolitical weapon. China looks at its market as an avenue for cooperation, and that is why they are looking at opening up markets. So when we look at it, it's more or less about China emerging as a strong economy, but more about how it can cooperate with the outside world to grow not just its economy, but to share with others. But of course, there is the domestic expectation from the Chinese people and the Chinese government to look at also its domestic growth, which is part of the key highlights of the two sessions, where they are targeting the growth of their industries, the growth of their technology. When we talk about technological advancement, quite a number of issues. So looking at it, they are looking at how China can engage the world, can engage other countries, and especially when you're talking about the global south countries, which Africa is part of. Looking at this group of nations can empower themselves, can grow together. That is what I got from the policy, the Chinese policy going forward, especially with their 15 5-year plan.
All right, journalist Enoch Sikolia, thank you so much for talking to us and giving us your updates on the situation in China. Of course, talking about the issues with the two belts. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.